Welcome to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. And now your host, Tim Johnson.
One of the state's most successful entrepreneurs, Brandon Landry of the rapidly growing Walk-On's restaurant chain, joins us when we return on this edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Consumers and property owners with construction projects can have a successful result or regretful experiences that could have been avoided. Before any construction project, verify licensure of the contractor and check references. Scammers will claim to be insured or bonded, so always check first. Download our app, LA Contractor, from the Android or Apple Store. Visit our website, lacontractor.org, or contact the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors. We're here to help before things go wrong. Hire a licensed contractor. It's the law.
Spadel's Florist was founded over 30 years ago. From my mom's kitchen, we have grown into one of the largest florists in this area. There's a sense in our community that you stick together. Good times or bad. And oil and gas is part of that family. They're my neighbors. They're my customers. They're the person I'm sitting next to at church. If oil and gas is doing well, all of our businesses are doing well. We are Louisiana Oil and Gas.
The Work Ready You program changed my life. There's opportunities for everything. You could be a welder, you could be a nurse. You can take any trade you want, and it's free. I dreamed of it as a kid, be successful, making a life for myself and making me a family. I always dreamed of it, but I never thought that I would be here, and dreams come true.
For your free high school equivalency training, text diploma to 55,000 or give us a call.
Passion, experience, safety. These are what set Arkell Constructors apart as a premier general contractor. At Arkell Constructors, our goal is to exceed our clients' expectations, whether it's commercial, industrial, or facility maintenance. We have the team and processes in place to provide a solution for you. To us, every project is a resume for our future. Arkell Constructors, the solution for your next building project.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Brandon Landry of Walk-On's Bistro and Bar is our guest, one of the fastest growing restaurant chains in the United States. Welcome, buddy.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you having me.
Glad you're here. Start off with a little personal interest. Tell us about your background, your education, and then we'll talk about the path that led you to where you are.
Yeah, so I'm originally from White Castle, Louisiana, the big metropolis, one red light, and grew up a sugarcane farmer's son and decided I wanted to go to Catholic High. And so I drove up to Catholic 45 minutes every day. Got cut from my basketball team my freshman year, went out and made it my sophomore year, and finished at Catholic, started my senior year, and went to LSU, decided I wanted to walk on there, and got cut then my freshman year. And then Brady figured out, hey man, we need a few more players.
The legendary John Brady.
The legendary, the re-energized John Brady, I should say. He didn't have enough players to practice with. So they called me back and said, Landry, you want to come practice? I said, I'm in. And then, of course, rest is history. 4 years later, I graduated from LSU.
So it was on those trips as a walk-on the LSU basketball team that you began to develop this idea. How did it start, Brandon? You and your teammate, another walk-on at the time, Jack Warner, you guys started to cultivate this idea of a different kind of sports bar restaurant in Baton Rouge, a family-friendly. Talk about the development of the concept.
Yeah, so I mean, two young knuckleheads, you know, didn't get a whole lot of playing time. I think I played 7 minutes my senior year, and Jack and I were literally on a plane ride on the way back from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and I think we had just got to be about 25. It was Stromile Swift's first game, and we were wide awake. All the starters were sleeping on the way home. We didn't play a second, so we were wide awake, and we literally started doodling on the bev nap that you get on planes, and walk-ons was created. It was an idea, right? I mean, we're 19 and 20 years old at the time, and everything just kind of starts with an idea. And we went back and we took it to our Dr. Robert Justice's class as an entrepreneurship class, and we did it as a school project, and he gave us a C. And it wasn't necessarily the idea. It was kind of, we needed some work with our business plan, and that walk-on mentality kicked in at a very early stage. It was like, you know what? Let's not give up. Let's keep trying. Like, we can make this thing better. This thing may come to fruition one day. And we kept working at it. And we actually worked with Dr. Justice, and he helped us really kind of help us with the business plan, and as we started going to banks and things like that.
Well, and you know, if you think about the story of most entrepreneurs, it's never easy as it may appear to be, right?
Yeah.
It was a struggle to find a bank that was willing to fund your idea. Talk a little bit about that and the work that you did to go out and find that initial funding.
Yeah, so we're young, and we go out and get some investors to back us. And as we're driving past the original property where the original walk-ons is, and every success story has a little bit of luck, right? And so we asked the guy that was nailing in the for sale or lease sign to move out the way so we can get the number. And we called up the realtor, and he said, yeah, it's for sale. And so we went and got some investors to see if they were interested in the real estate first and foremost. And of course, right next to LSU, they said, yeah. So we had to go to a bank and get some loans. We went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they all said, guys, we love it, but man, we just can't back you. You know, well, first of all, the restaurant business is risky in itself. And I mean, we were young and inexperienced. And once again, the walk-on mentality kicked in and said, let's go to number 7. And number 7, we sat down with some local bankers and an SBA person out of Lafayette, and Mr. Andre Frugier, and he sat down and said, guys, if you're willing to bust your tail, we'll back you. And so we're like, well, what does that mean? And he goes, it means you just got a lot of debt, but good luck. And so, that's how it started.
So you build the first restaurant on Burbank Drive, right, you know, as they say, in the shadow of Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge. I think it opened in the fall of 2003.
September of 2003.
Right, I can remember you and I have had this discussion. It was right before the big Georgia game that sort of led to LSU's national championship that year. Talk about the opening and that first restaurant, and then we'll talk a little bit about where you've gone since then.
It was chaos. I mean, to open up in the middle of football. See, of course, we took a lot of credit for that national championship that year. But man, look, we didn't buy a franchise. We didn't buy systems and processes and branding and marketing and everything that, fast forward 16 years, that we provide to our franchisees today. But we wanted to create something new. And man, we opened up, and it was, we opened up this very large restaurant. Huge crowds coming in. We couldn't keep up with food. We couldn't keep up with inventory. We were bad. I mean, look, I'll be the first to admit. But, the only way you improve is to face the brutal truth, right, in any business or any team or anything that you're part of. And we did that. And throughout the years, one thing we had from the very beginning is culture. We knew, coming from being a walk-on and being the lowest guy on the totem pole, and through our contribution, we were making the team better. Even though we knew we weren't going to play on Saturday night against Auburn or Florida or anybody. But
was it your role?
It wasn't my role. My role in practice was to run scout team. I was Saul Smith every time we played Kentucky over those 4 years in practice, and I knew I was making the team better, and that carried over in our business philosophies and still does today. And, our dishwasher, even though they may be the lowest guy on the totem pole in a restaurant, he was the most important. He was the walk-on. He was what we were on that team. And so, that was what got us through the first couple years. And as we got help, and we encouraged consultants to come help us, and, being young and ignorance is bliss, right? You don't know what you don't know. And so we were going in there and just say, let's just get better. We can just get a little bit better over time. And thank goodness that the people of Baton Rouge and the community really supported us and said, look, these guys they're getting better. They're getting a little bit better. And, that kind of got us through the first couple of years.
Well, if you think about some of the things that happened in a good way for you, that luck that you talked about, that great piece of property there, you open up, you begin to learn your lessons, and you start to realize some success. I want to take a break, and I want to come back and talk about that success. I want to talk about the growth. I want to talk about the moment you realized you had a franchisable concept. Yeah. And a lot more to talk about. We're visiting with Brandon Landry. He's the CEO of Walk-Ons. You're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Since 1919, we've designed and constructed hundreds of industrial plants, roads, ships, dams, and executed some of the most complex jobs in the world. In fact, our quality and dependability are legendary. Today, the legend continues as Brown & Root delivers engineering, construction, maintenance, and industrial specialty services throughout the U.S. and the world from our headquarters here in Louisiana. We are Brown and Root.
ExxonMobil Baton Rouge keeps the local economy rolling. Our new aviation project created hundreds of jobs, drove millions of dollars to local businesses, and poured thousands more into our community to improve schools. 1 in 8 jobs in our parish can be traced back to ExxonMobil. Tomorrow's Baton Rouge is built by what we do today. A little energy goes a long way. ExxonMobil Baton Rouge. Energy lives here.
The 1012 Industry Report is excited to announce the 1012 Industry Weekly. This e-newsletter is free and comes to your inbox every Tuesday. All you have to do is sign up at 1012industryreport.com. 1012 Industry Report is an award-winning magazine serving South Louisiana's petrochemical and oil and gas industries. From Lake Charles to Baton Rouge and New Orleans, we cover the news, people, projects, and issues that matter to industry. The 1012 Industry Report magazine and weekly email. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Brandon Landry, the CEO of the Franchised Walk-Ons, is our guest. We talked a little bit, Brandon, about your experience as a walk-on and how that sort of drove you and helped you to develop the idea and the culture, and we'll talk more about the culture later. But you get the first restaurant open in the fall of 2003. You mentioned you really didn't know what you were doing, but you were learning. You know, that old idea, you jump off the cliff, you'll figure out how to fly on the way down. When did you know you had a franchisable concept here?
So we opened up our first location outside of Baton Rouge in Lafayette. And it was a big step for us. You know, everybody knew who we were here in Baton Rouge in the local area. And we went to Lafayette and people were thinking, well, what's this LSU place coming to Ragin' Cajun country? And it wasn't even about, I mean, we went 15 miles away from campus out on Colley Saloon. And we opened up gangbusters. I mean, we just, people loved the concept. They loved that it wasn't your typical sports bar. You know, we had families and women loved the place, not your prototypical where it's just the guys hang out drinking beer, watching sports. And then we went to New Orleans, and we opened up in New Orleans, and you know, what is the food capital of the world, right there on Porger Street, and we knocked the doors off there as well. And we started looking at it and was like, man, this thing may have some legs. And then ESPN came calling in 2012, about a year and a half after we had been open in New Orleans. And they said, hey, we're doing a nation, the continent is doing a contest to see if what's the #1 sports bar in North America. And they said, you're one of 5,200 sports bars up for it. I said, well, thank God we made that list.
Yeah. And, don't want to rank 49,000.
Exactly. And so then they cut it down to 100. They cut it down to 12, and we made the top 12. And we're like, man, this is really cool, even if we don't go any further. We had 4 restaurants at the time. We were up against some big boys in Minneapolis and Charlotte and Austin. And lo and behold, a couple weeks later, we're announced #1 sports bar in North America. And you know, an award's an award, right? But when you can put ESPN in front of that award, just the credibility. And so that's when we started, first of all, getting investment opportunities and, you know, lots of inquiries from around the country, and people were just interested in our brand. And everything that we had worked towards over that 9 or 10 years, you know, not being your typical sports bar, improving our food, the culture that I touched on earlier, just it's proven to be successful. And then that's, we said, you know what, let's grow this thing, and you know, we can accelerate our growth a little bit. We started getting franchise inquiries, and but we wanted to do it the right way. You know, you hear the horror stories of franchise systems where they just sell to anybody, and we didn't want to do that. We wanted to almost do it like corporate growth, but in a franchise system. And we took our time putting all of our systems and processes together and making sure that the packet the walk-ons packet is ready to roll, and we did. And so we sold our first franchise in 2014.
So first franchise happens in 2014. I guess it was your third or fourth store at that point, maybe fifth store
correct.
At that point. Where are you today? Talk about the current state of Walk-On Enterprises.
Yeah, so franchising has done really well for us. Our franchise partners opened up, Shreveport being the first one open, then Lake Charles, and those guys just, they killed it up there. And so we're sitting here today with, we're opening up number 26 next week in Edinburgh, Texas, down by McAllen. We have over 130 franchises sold throughout the country. System sales is over $120 million, with next year close to $250 million. It's unbelievable what's happened.
Certainly beyond your wildest imagination at the beginning.
Absolutely. Right? I mean, it's but you know, doing it the right way, taking care of the people, being selective on who we're asking to join our team, and you know, just concentrate, putting lots of time, effort, resources, money on opening the right way and making sure we're sustaining those sales that we're doing. Not just going open to open and move on to the next one. It's lots of moving parts in the Walk-Ons brand, and we're very protective of our brand and making sure that we're branding it the right way, but like I said, also inviting the right people to join us.
You've mentioned, Brandon, a number of times during our conversation already, the Walk-Ons way, the culture, how critically important that has been for you and to you from the very beginning. What does it mean? What is the Walk-Ons way? What is the culture that you work to create in each one of these restaurants?
Well, I think it's very authentic because we were walk-ons. And so, like I mentioned earlier, everyone understanding their role and being a part of a team. And, you know, everybody that's heard, you know, Drew's part of our team. I know we'll talk about Drew here in a little bit, but, you know, you've heard comments from him. Being a part of a team is being a part of something bigger than yourself. And we really live and breathe and die by that every day in the walk-ons world, just because, like I said, look, there's an example I use often. If we walk in on a Friday night and it's 7:30 and it's an hour wait and our general manager walks out of the door, I ask some of our team, how bad will that shift be? And a lot of them say, we'll make it through it. And I said, okay, Friday night, 7:30, hour and a half wait, our dishwasher walks out. How bad will that shift be? And they go, oh, man, I don't know if we can make it. Right. Exactly, because that person is just as important to the team as everyone else. And so when I go back to authenticity and making sure that everyone understands their role and where, you know, the goal that we have in mind, and look, we're all a part of it. And, you know, it's really fun. And when people get it, you know, a lot of people just say, hey, we want culture. Culture's not easy. And a lot of people don't understand how important culture is until it costs you money. Right. When you have to rehire people or train people or things like that. And so it's the only thing that got us through the first couple years. And now we can layer on systems. And
it can sustain you going forward. Let's take a break. We'll come back. I want to talk about your partnership with Drew Brees and his engagement, what that's like. I want to talk about a new concept that you guys are working on together as well. We're visiting with Brandon Landry of Walk-Ons. You're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
I just see the positive things on the horizon, and BRAC is a real integral part of that.
BRAC's taken a very forward role in trying to help align people and align strategies and align solutions.
You'll find that you'll have an opportunity at BRAC to make a difference.
It's about being a part of conversations and really having a voice in terms of how we move the city forward.
A lot of my friends were in college and stuff, which is great. It wasn't the route for me, you know, and financially, I know it's tough on a lot of people, so I saw welding. At first, my instinct was like, what pays the most money? You know, so I was like, welding, that's the way to go. It made a great living for me and my family. You can always work your way up. There's multiple ladders, and really the sky's the limit. You know, I thought I got to the max with as high as I can go with welding. It's how as you want to grow, you can absolutely achieve it.
promoting workplace safety and family wellness. That's our motto at Gulf Coast Occupational Medicine. The Gulf Coast staff is made up of some of the most knowledgeable and hardest working medical professionals in Louisiana. We care about your safety and your bottom line. With 8 convenient locations in the greater Baton Rouge area, our services include injury management, physical exams, medical surveillance, and substance abuse testing. For more information, visit us on the web at gcombr.info and ride the wave to safety.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Brandon Landry of Walk-Ons is our guest. We left the last segment talking about culture and how critically important that is. One of the things I've noticed, Brandon, is in a lot of your advertising, even as you go national now, is still centered on Louisiana's culture. How much of an advantage do you believe it has been to your growth to be headquartered here and sort of centered in and born in the Louisiana culture?
Huge. We have a huge advantage from being from this wonderful state. And when you talk Louisiana, of course, people think food. They think culture. They think sports. They think Mardi Gras. They think fun, exactly. And so it's a point of differentiation for us. When we're talking about a Louisiana sports grill, there's conferences that we go to around the country, and people that may have not heard of us before, they say, well, what type of place is it? And I say, well, it's the Louisiana Sports Grill. And people get it right away.
Right.
There's not many states that have that luxury. And we're
in fact, there may not be any other state.
Nothing against Iowa, but if I say, hey man, I got a really cool Iowa sports bar, people are like, oh, well, what does that mean? But I say Louisiana and they get it right away. And we talk about game day with a taste of Louisiana. And that's a couple meanings. You know, when you think game day, of course, it's fun, it's sporty. Of course, we got 80 TVs and over 50 beers on tap and all, but a taste of Louisiana meaning more than just our cuisine. It's the taste of our Louisiana culture and the things that's special.
The passion. And, you know, Scott Van Pelt from ESPN, who does some marketing work for you guys on your website, you know, just talks about the Louisiana culture and how he's been able to drink it up and what it's meant to him as well. Now, you talk about another, you know, being in Louisiana. And so this guy, you know, that's pretty popular in the state, quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, walks into your restaurant one day and says, man, if I ever had my own sports bar, I'd do it just like this. And today, Drew Brees is a significant partner in your enterprise. Talk about that relationship, how it started, Brandon, and what it's meant to you.
Yeah, well, I get a call one day from Chris Stewart, who's Drew's marketing agent, and said, look, Drew and I would love to talk to you about the concept. We just announced that we're going to start franchising. And so he goes, actually, I'm going to pick up Drew from practice here in a couple of minutes. You mind if we call you back? I said, absolutely, yeah. So I'd never met Drew before in my life, always a Saints fan. And I get a call about 20 minutes later and he said, hey, Brandon, this is Chris again. I got Drew in the car. And Drew's like, what's up, Brandon? I'm like, hey, Drew Brees. You know, what's going on, man? The fan side of me.
Yeah.
And we sit down a couple weeks later and he's like, man, I just love what you guys are doing. He goes, I love the fact that, you know, it's Louisiana. He goes, I almost feel like I'm a part of Louisiana now, and not like I'm a native here. And he goes, I just want to be a part of it. He goes, I love everything about it. He said, I take my teammates here. He goes, I take my kids here, my wife here. It's just something for everyone. I just want to know if I can be a part of this. And so we went, you know, and one thing I'll say, he wasn't Drew Brees, the celebrity, asking for a handout. No. He's Drew Brees, the business guy, looking to make an investment.
A very successful business guy.
Absolutely. People don't realize how successful. And look, there's a reason why he's successful on the football player. Of course, he's got God-given talent, but just the type of person he is. And I tell people when I talk about Drew in any part of the country, whether you're a Saints fan or not, if you're a good guy fan, you're a Drew Brees fan. And that's the absolute truth. I mean, he's just that type of person. He gives everyone the respect that they deserve. It doesn't matter your status or your job code or anything like that.
He fits that walk-on's culture, right?
Absolutely. He feels like he's a walk-on. And that was one of the things he told me in the very beginning. He said, look, I'm a Texas guy. I didn't get recruited by any Texas school. He said, I had to end up at Purdue just to get a scholarship. And then he said, I go to San Diego, I hurt my shoulder. Everybody's like, no, we can't take that risk. Saban's at Miami.
Best decision Nick Saban ever made, right?
Exactly. And he goes, I guess New Orleans it is. And man, has that been a fun ride.
Well, and to have him engaged, to let him participate in your marketing, I know that that's got to be something that's special to you, both professionally and personally. And you are working together now on a new concept that you've just announced within the last few weeks. Talk about that.
Yeah, so you know, we do our little burger sliders at walk-ons, and you know, we started kind of playing around with it and changing up a few little things on it. I said, man, is this something that we can do as a different brand and a different concept? And so I came up with the idea of small sliders, and we're going to do cook-to-order, handcrafted burger sliders and fries and shakes. And we're going to make the buildings out of refurbished sea cans, storage containers. And my nephew Jacob Dugai is going to be running the operations, and Drew and I were actually flying up to Shreveport last summer for the Independence Bowl kickoff luncheon, and I was just telling him about it. I wasn't even pitching it to him. Everybody says, yeah, right, but I really was. I was just showing him, and he goes, man, I want in. And I said, look, I'm not pitching. He goes, no, I understand that. He goes, I'd love to be a part of that. And so Drew and I are partners once again on another concept, and so we'll see how it goes. We're planning on opening our first location right not far from the original Walk-Ons. In late May, and we're building this thing to be a franchisable brand as well.
We'll see how it goes as it starts in Baton Rouge, and maybe it grows to be as large. We got about a minute left here. What's the most important lesson you've learned as an entrepreneur, Brandon? A young entrepreneur, quite frankly. You mentioned you had the idea at 19, 20 years old. What have you learned? Is there anything you'd do differently if you had to do it over again?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's we were so young when we opened, and I think that the brand and it kind of matured with us, you know. But you don't. I said it earlier. You don't know what you don't know, and so there's not a lot. I mean, look, there's no better way to learn how to do something than to do it wrong once, maybe twice. But you know, get your hands dirty and just go for it. And I think the most valuable thing, if I can give any advice to any entrepreneurs out there, take care of your people. And I know that's a very cliche-ish term, and people use it and probably overuse it the wrong way. But, man, you're only as good as the people that are with you and your soldiers that are fighting with you every day.
And you've done it. You've created that culture. You've created a brand. You've created a popular brand that's growing all across the country. Brandon Landry, Walk-On Enterprises. Your state's proud of you, buddy.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
We'll keep an eye on you and have you back sometime soon.
Thank you, Tim.
That's a wrap, guys. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next week at this very same time for another edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.